So I did my disease on Candida albicans, and you all should know my name by now. So an overview of my will be showing you guys today. What is Candida albicans? The history of it, symptoms, experiment, transmissions, where it resides, and the different types. Also the causes, the treatments, the functions, the citations, and my conclusion. So before I go over what exactly it is, I'd like to tell you guys a story, the true story, about a girl named Julia who wasn't feeling good and her throat was hurting, so her mom decides to take her to the hospital. The doctor prescribes her antibiotics because they found out that she had strep throat. And over the days, she was starting to feel better. The first day, it was good. The second day, it was fine. The third day, it was good. The fourth day, it was good. On the fifth day, she had something unusual happen to her. She had a discharge in her underwear. And what I mean by discharge is a cottage cheese-like substance that comes from the vaginal area. And it's formed together by mycelium and hyphae. And those are thread-like filaments that form together a thick-like substance. And that came from her vagina. So her mom takes her straight back to the hospital, and they find out that she was infected with a yeast infection from the antibiotics. And I wanted to tell you guys this story because this can happen to any girl. It can even happen to Mel, and I'll go over that later in the presentation. So Candida albicans is a diploid fungus. It grows both as a yeast and a filamentous cell, a casual agent of the opportunistic oral and genital infections in humans. It is a Candida onychomycosis that causes morbidity, mortality, and immunocompromised patients. This means the chemotherapy patients or the cancer patients are most likely to get infected by Candida albicans for a reason that I don't know why, they're just more likely to. Also, the biofilm formed on medical devices in the hospital, and the highest one that it formed on are antibiotics. And this is why when the doctor prescribes that and injects you with it, it causes yeast infections most likely. It doesn't happen for everyone, but for the majority of them it happens because the bacteria gets on them and they get infected. That's why Candida albicans is one of the major symptoms of getting a yeast infection, because if it's in the hospital, when you go get treatment, then the hospital isn't safe. Because if you have a problem already, and you're going to find out what that is, you come back knowing that you have another problem, which is the yeast infection, and the hospitals aren't safe, and antibiotics is not going to use them. So the history of Candida albicans. It starts off in 400 BC with Monelius, and it evolved from exiting a human host to an infectious disease over 200 years. So, and we also have over 200 years of medical etiological agent of oral thrush, and this is from a pathogen. That's what researchers have finally came to the conclusion in the early 1900s. It was a thrush, and a thrush is in the throat, and this is what they found in 400 BC by Hippocrates. He said it was an aphthous ulcerations in the throat, and it originated from the host. And in 1665, Pepe, which is also another famous writer, he comes to the conclusion that thrush originated from the host. In the 1900s, Castellini morbid secretions of the oral mucosa, and this means that he came also to the conclusion that it originated from the host. And what he did, like any regular scientist would do, is do many tests, and he compared them with other scientists and authors, and he finally came to the conclusion in the early 1900s that it originated from the host, and there's a thrush the throat. And that's where the first signs of Candida albicans came from. The symptoms. The symptoms is itchiness in the vaginal area, slow leakage of the thick white cheese-like substance I told you guys about that's formed by mycelia and hyphae, and burning during sexual intercourse or when urinating. It may cause redness in the vaginal area. The transmissions. Weak or compromised immune system, pregnancy because when you're pregnant, your estrogen levels are very high, and it's most likely it's way easier to get one when you're pregnant. Diabetes and antibiotics, like I said, but it usually happens in a long period of time. But unluckily for Julia, it happened in 5 days. So if you find out that you've been infected with one, you can get treatments to help cure before all the side effects start kicking in, like what happened to Julia. And as a use of corticosteroid medicines, and the medicines I will show you. Treatments are a 1 to 3 day regimen of an antifungal cream, ointment, or tablet or suppository. The common anti-medications used are Genazel, Lotrimin, Monistat, and Terrazole. Location on the body. The yeast infection normally resides in the vaginal area in small numbers, but when it gets too compacted, and the yeast cells start to multiply and it starts to spread around, and it can get on scab, on skin, in your fingernails, or even males can get it on the tip of their penis. And that's very rare though. And it causes it to turn red. So it causes antibiotics, like I already went over, pregnancy, uncontrolled diabetes, weak immune system, douching, like I already went over, it's a cheese-like substance that's formed together by mycelia, and poor eating habits, hormonal imbalance, and stress. The different types of fungus of Candida albicans. The main genus formed from is a dimorphic fungus, and this is in 2 forms. Mycelia, which I already explained, it branching thread-like hyphal filaments, and pseudohyphae. And these are composed of chain cells that also help gather the substance together. My experiment. My goal was to determine the efficiency of various laundering options in disinfecting reusable cloth diapers. And so we put some of the used cloth in a new diaper, laundered them both separately, and the process is called RDA. We use tea tree, grapefruit, and OxyClean. And what we basically did was take 3 diapers, and Candida albicans has bacteria in it. And some of the bacteria is good that they use. So we put these 3 substances, tea tree, grapefruit, and OxyClean, in each of the diapers. And saw which one was the most effective and which could cause harm. And we came to the conclusion that tea tree was the most one that causes the most harm to the diaper. And our materials was the Petri dishes, that's what we used to display the 3 substances. The chrome guard plates was the plate that we used to put the infected diaper on, and the alcohol to disinfect. Our conclusion, what we went over today was Candida albicans, what it basically is, the history of it, the symptoms, the experiment, transmissions, where Candida albicans is found, and different types. And these are my citations. Any questions?
All right, raise your hand. Guys, raise your hand if you have a question.
Okay, can you get yeast infection from yeast or just fungus?
Can you speak up?
Can you get yeast infection from yeast or just fungus?
From yeast mostly, but fungus is in the yeast, and that's what makes it spread around more. And they start to multiply, and the bacteria helps it do that. and that's when it starts spreading from the vaginal area all around your skin. And yeah, does that answer your question?
Yes.
Josh?
I got two. One, how does can I ask you to elaborate how this works in males?
How this works in males?
Yes.
Well, basically, if you don't keep good hygiene, and if you have like scabs on your skin, if you don't keep good hygiene, these cells will start forming on your scab, and if you don't treat those with ointment, like I said already, and they can get infected easily, and many things can happen to it, but if it's a really bad case, these cells can start growing on it, and they can spread. And like I said, they can spread to your penis as well. Does that answer your question?
Yes, and then my second question was, what is the death rate for this? Like, is it different from males and females?
It's not really, it's not a deadly disease. It's just, it's a very harmful disease. It can harm you in many ways, but there's not a large death rate. There's not that many people die from it. That answer your question?
Yes, it did. Thank you.
All right.
How old was Julia?
Julio was 9 years old.
9?
Was it's a true story.
Alright, one more question?
To add on to Josh's first question, so you said there was discharge in the vaginal area when the women get yeast infections. When a man gets yeast infection, is there like a manifestation of this symptom in men as well? Like, do they have discharge too?
No.